and welcome to everyone. My name is Romina Montanari, and I'm the food and wine event manager for the Italian Cultural Center. That is the prime nonprofit organization in the Twin City and is promoting the Italian language and culture. Today we're presenting the series Storie di famiglia, made in Italy, meet the people behind the label. And specifically today we have Labor of Love, Wine Family of Piemonte is the second episode, and we're going to meet two families from Italy, the Rocca family and the Cigliuti family. Regarding the wine, the wine you can't find in Minnesota, but we'll tell you the email. You can email them directly. You can email Suzanne, and you can email also John Rittmaster, in case you want to try their wine, even if you don't find it here in Minnesota. Each Sunday we'll always visit with two families from the Barbaresco and Barolo wine family. So keep yourself tuned for every Sunday from 12:30 to 1:30 Central Time. I'm going to give you a little bit of housekeeping tips before we started. So everybody, it would be better if you're muted. Keep the speaker view on. When we're going to show you the picture, please choose on the top of the faces the show active speaker video. I want to let you know that we're recording. And also you have to be patient in case there is some problem with the internet connection in Italy, because today we have two special guests, two families from Italy, from Piemonte. We have Suzanne from Colorado, so we have an international community. We're trying to get an international community here through Zoom. They're going to present for 40 minutes, and then the last 20 minutes are going to be for question and answer. Just please write your question in the chat button. And right now, I have the pleasure to introduce Suzanne Hoffman. She's an attorney and author of the book Labor of Love, Wine Family Women of Piemonte. Then we're going to meet the Rocca family. She's in the village of Barbaresco, has been in the wine business for more than a century. And then you're going to meet the Cigliuti family that is located in Becco di Neve and also is a family-owned and operated winery in his fifth generation. So welcome everybody and enjoy the presentation.
Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. We have people from all over joining us. And I would just like to introduce a little bit the region for those of you that were with us last weekend, as well as those of you that have visited Piemonte. You are familiar with where it is located. We'll show you on the map where exactly you can find. You have to be patient with us with the slides. We've had some technical glitches, but Piemonte is located in the northwest part of Italy. As you can see on the lower right-hand corner, there's a little darker spot. And in this map, the bigger map, you can see the different provinces within Piemonte. We are going to be primarily in the Cuneo region today. At the end of our series, we'll be over in Asti and Alessandria. But today specifically, we are in the Langhe area. Barbaresco is in the Langhe wine region. You can see, if we move on to the region of, can you show the map of all of Piemonte, the next slide? And then you can see the Barbaresco is located sort of in the southern part, kind of in the center. And those are in the hills of the Langhe, as I said. And of course, many of you are familiar as well with the other Langhe city village known as Barolo. In Barbaresco, just to orient yourselves, we have 3.5 villages. We have Barbaresco, the village from which the denomination takes its name. Neve, you can go to the next slide. Neve, and we have Trezzo, which next week you'll meet someone from Trezzo. And we have also what we call the half village, the frazione of Alba, known as San Rocco San Odelvio. And Daniela will tell you a little bit about this area, because some of their really nice prized, all of their vineyards are beautiful, and some of them are located in that area, as well as you can see up on the left-hand side, up in the upper left-hand quadrant of Barbaresco area, where Albino Rocca is located, right next to the village of Barbaresco. And over on the right, you can see where the Cigliutis are located, near Neve. So I am now that you know where we all are, we're going to turn it over to Daniela Rocca from Albino Rocca in Barbaresco. Ciao, Daniela.
Ciao, Suzanne. It's
this is your beautiful region, the view of Barbaresco Tower. And
exactly.
So tell us a little bit about your family, about your history.
Sure. It's a pleasure for me to be attend today this nice meeting and to talk about my family, as you know, it's all about the family. So Albino was our grandfather, but I mean, my family has been growing the vines in the Barbaresco village for more than a century, as we know that we did research, also thanks to you, Susan. And we discovered that the family was already selling the grapes to the co-op back into 1894, when basically the produttori, so the co-op, was founded at the time. But I mean, Albino, my grandfather, was the one that started to, you know, to put his own name on a label and to start to do the first the bottling of the grapes that we own. I also have to remember that in the past, so this is a picture of Giacomo, Albino's father. But also already in the very old time, another woman was very important in our family, as Giacomo's mother remained a widow when Giacomo was a child. Still, he was only 5 years old. And so she, Carolina, this was her name. She was a very strong woman at the time, because we are talking about 1906, so a long time ago. And so she was able to continue to run the estates, and so she was selling the grapes. And then Giacomo, as soon as he became adult, he took over, and he was able to run the estate. So Albino, of course, was a very important person in our family. I mean, he lived in a period that was very, very difficult. You know, he was running the estate in between almost, you know, 2 world wars, because he was born in 1924. And but he started to put his own name on a label in 1970. This was, let's say that this is really the official beginning of Albino Rocca, when Giacomo passed away. So Giacomo, our great-grandfather, passed away in 1970, and so my grandpa took over. And thanks also to the help of my dad, Angelo, they both together were able to buy new land. So they a little bit enlarge our estate, our land, our vineyards. And so my dad, Angelo, was also a very innovative man. I listened to the session you did last week, and Susan, you were talking about the Barolo Boys. So that period during the 80s and 90s, when many Barolo and Barbaresco producers started to do something different in order to improve the quality. And my dad was part of this project. So
nice.
he was the one that started to travel. He was the one that started to sell also the wines
I'm gonna go hide this.
in US. So let's say that that was the period when really the area changed a little bit. The philosophy, the quality of the wine, and it was I think it was also important that all the producers were collaborate all together in order to improve and to make better better wines. So, and my dad was really full of surprises, full of ideas, always with new projects to realize. A very dynamic person. And so unfortunately my dad passed away in 2012, but my dad had 3 daughters, so, and me and my 2 sisters, Monica and Paula and Carlo, we took over immediately. I mean, this was the passing of my dad was unexpected, but immediately there was, our intention was to continue. There was no other, absolutely no other way. That was what we wanted to do. And I like also, Suzanne, to mention on your book, I have your book here. And I like when you say on page 207 that 40 years ago, 3 daughters would have been viewed as a curse. But today it's so beautiful to see how many women are involved in the business and are taking over and are continually, to manage wineries, especially here in the region, the Barolo and Barbaresco area. And this is an amazing picture that you, Susan, decided to, among all the pictures I sent to you, it's all the family with also Carlo, Paola's sister, Paola's husband. Carlo is the winemaker today, and Carlo, when my dad passed away, took a very important role in our winery. So thanks to him, we were also able to really continue to make to grow our vineyards and to make a very, very good wine. So I think also the fact that Carlo and Paola work together, because Paola, my younger sister, she went to the School of Enology, so she's the one that also helps Carlo in making the wine, and they are an extraordinary couple. They put together their energy and their effort really to always to in order to improve, always to make very, very good wines. That's so Carlo was also working along with my dad for 12 years, and also he belongs to a family of farmers from San Rocco Sono Delvio. So this is the very tiny village inside the Barbaresco region. So today we manage 18 hectares. So we make, of course, different Barolo Barbaresco single vineyards, and we also grow Dolcetto, Barbera. We grow some white varietals like Moscato, Cortese, and Chardonnay. So we are able to make a Barbaresco from 4 different plots, from 3 of the 4 villages inside the Barbaresco district. So 2 single vineyards are from the Barbaresco village, where we are, and one is Ovello and one is Ronchi, where the winery is located, and where the winery is based since the beginning. And one is Cotta from the Neve village, and one is Montersino from San Rocco. San Rocco Senodelvio is really a tiny, tiny hamlet, but it's, I think it's a very unique area. It's a higher elevation compared to Barbaresco, and it's also promising very well. So the highest elevation helps us to keep good freshness, and you know, we have to consider that weather is changing, and so we are you know, we are trying to plant and vines in the higher elevation, and so San Rocco is the highest, along with the Bricco di Neve, are the highest point of the Barbaresco region, and so we think that this is an area that will have in the future good possibility of growing. I mean, I like also the picture that are showing, we hope, the next generation. So Monica, this is a picture that is showing Monica with her daughter Viola, and Monica also has another son, Francesco, who is only 5 years old, and Paola and Carlo, 2 sons, Daniele. So this is a picture that is showing Daniele, and Daniele is 10 years old now, and Simone is 14 years old, and he started to attend the School of Enology this year for the first year. So we hope to have, of course, a next generation taking over and continue the long tradition of our family. So.
And that one, I love this one. Tell us what you're doing there. Cheryl's gonna laugh at that one.
So the picture, you mean?
Yes.
So this was a very nice evening with you, Susan, and the group that you took to Piemonte. And so we were having this funny dinner in this nice place, Storie delle Aie. Yeah, and I'm trying to drink some Barbaresco in this very big glass.
And it was a beautiful Barbaresco. It was the
it was Barbaresco Angelo, yes, I remember.
From a Magnum. Well,
yeah.
Daniela, it's, you know, I wish we had all day to sit and talk, and because you have so many wonderful stories, and we'll get back to you on the question and answer, because I'm sure that there are many questions that people have for you. But right now we're going to switch over to Claudia Cigliuti from her family winery in Neve. Claudia, are you there?
Here I am. Yes. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Ciao,
Well,
Susan.
Tell us about your family. You introduce yourself, and I'll just let you go.
Yes, okay. So we are from Neve. So Neve is one of the 3 villages where Barbaresco is produced, and more exactly, we are located on the hill of Saraboella. It's about 350 meters above sea level, and also my family is a long time in this business, in this area, forever and ever. It seems that the family Cigliuti lives in the same place since 1300, but I don't know exactly what they did at that time. So from the time we remember, my father is the 4th generation. They own this property and in Bricco di Neve. And my father was born in 1938, so just before the beginning of the Second World War. So it was a very, very hard time for him to be a young boy in the period of the Second World War, as in our area actually we have had a strong and active movement of partisan against the Nazis, and so he, as a child, actually has been a part and saw a lot of battles around here. So my father just attended the primary school, the elementary school, and when he was 10 years old, he decided to stop with the school and to continue the business of the family. It was a period after the Second World War when here the area was very poor, and it was a kind of mixed agriculture, and most of the young boys left the countryside to go work in the cities. And in fact, in the school where my father went, on 30 students, only 3 stayed in the countryside, and all the rest left and went to find a better fortune in the cities. So when my father took the reins of the winery in the 60s, he actually decided to focus on the quality. So you need to know that the climate at that time was very different from nowadays. If nowadays we almost have 10 good vintages on 10, at that time we used to have maximum 2-3 great vintages on 10. I'm talking about the 60s, 70s, 80s. So it was much more important at that time to reduce the yields to get a better quality. So my father in the 60s, he started to reduce a little bit the yields, cutting some clusters down, which is a process that nowadays everybody knows, but at that time it was considered crazy, because it was wasting fruit on the floor, and for the people who suffered the fame after the Second World War was really difficult to accept this kind of idea. And he started to bottle his production in 1964. In 1964 he just made 300 bottles of Barbaresco, and in 67 he started to use the label that we are still using now. Of course, it was very difficult at the time to promote the quality wine, because the people just care about the price and not the quality. So it was very challenging for them to be able to promote the quality wine. And in the 70s, my father, with some other producers, founded an association called the Small Producers Great Wine from Piedmont. So the other producer were, for example, Giorgio Rivetti from La Spinetta, Roberto Damonte from Malvirà, Luciano Sandrone, Pelissero from Treviso, and everybody at the time was completely unknown. And so they asked my father, and as he was the oldest, if he knew some names a little bit more popular. And my father was a very good friend of Bartolo Mascarello, so he asked Bartolo to join this group, and he luckily accepted. So they founded this association, and they started to attend to the first fair, wine fair, in Italy, some other fair that now disappeared, in Torino, in Genova, and they met the first importers. So they started in the late 70s to export in United States, Switzerland, and Germany. This has been the first 3 markets, and honestly, it has been what saved the area. And because of course it was very hard to sell quality wines in Italy at the time. As Daniela was saying, the big movement from quantity to quality happened in the middle, in the late 80s, when the people started also in Italy to drink less but better and spend a little bit more money to drink better. So my father had 2 daughters, as many other producers in Langhe region had this unluck. They were saying it was not a lucky news when a farmer had a daughter, because in the past, of course, this kind of business was a business for men, not for ladies. But both of us decided to continue with this passion. So nowadays, it's me, my sister, my parents that work in the vineyards, in the cellar. So we have just one employee, and we do everything directly from us. We own 7 hectares of vineyards. We have about 6 hectares on the Cru of Seraboella, and we have about 1 hectare on Bricco di Neve, which is facing Seraboella. So they are very, very close by. And the total production is around 30,000 bottles a year. So it's still tiny, but we like this size because we enjoy to do all the works by ourselves directly, and to touch with our hands all the step of the production. So for us, it's very important. So we like to keep this size.
So what varieties are you growing and bottling?
We are only growing Nebbiolo and Barbera. We used to have some Dolcetto as well, and now we are only growing Nebbiolo and Barbera. So we mainly have the Nebbiolo on the southwest facing and the Barbera on the southeast facing.
So that region where you are particularly was, as you were saying earlier, I mean, it was very, very much a lot of bloodshed during the Nazi occupation, was it not? I mean, you've got quite some stories there. Tell us a story about your grandmother, your great-grandmother, I think it was.
Yeah, my grandmother actually, yes, was like my grandfather. They were very active at that time, helping partisans during the Second World War. And one day, my grandmother knew that few 500 meters from our house, it was a Nazist occupation. And she was outside in the yard, and she was seeing 2 people walking in the direction of the Nazis. And my grandmother was telling them, go away, go away. And these people reached her, and they were Nazis, they were Germans, and my grandmother, and they asked immediately, what are you doing? Would you like to say something to the partisan? And my grandmother has been very suddenly, she said, no, the chicken are eating the grapes in the vineyard. So I was just telling them to go away from the grapes because they are eating all the grapes and we have to pick them. And so she saved her skin. I don't know if you say in English, but in Italian we say si è salvata la pelle. So she actually has been lucky to have this idea immediately.
Well, she didn't just save her skin, she saved the whole family, because the retribution was quite strong and quite fast. There's another great story that I love to hear and has been inspiring for me, and that is about your grandfather, Leone, one dark night during a partisan battle. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. For me, it's hard to explain in English, but yes, it was a kind of, again, a battle, and always with the partisan, etc. And they shoot, and they actually, this man was injured, but they were able to hide him and save his life as well. So
Well, he didn't just save his life. He put him in the cart, and I'll help you with the English on that one. And
Exactly.
took him, I mean, I looked at the distance between the Brico de Neve and Cortimiglia down in the Alta Langa, where the hospital was for the partisans.
It was yes, a long ride.
Through the night. And nowadays, what I like so much about that story is that nowadays, you know, whenever a bottle of Sarabuela comes to my table, or we open it in our cellar, I can't help but think about that story, because it was in that vineyard. And so many of the vineyards and areas of your region, have these kinds of stories.
Exactly.
You know, we don't realize there's some great stories behind the label. We have another photo here of you all doing something in August, the hazelnuts. Tell us about your hazelnuts and what you're doing here.
We have 4 hectares of hazelnuts implanted in the valley, where is not a good exposure, is not a good soil for the vineyards, and so we picked the hazelnuts just before the harvest in Ferragosto. So generally we start around the 15th of August, and we dry them on the yard under the sun for 2 days. And then we put in this basket, in this bag, to storage and to sell. So yeah, in the past when I was a kid, we used to pick by hand, all by hand, and this is why my back now is not very good anymore. But now finally we have a machine, so it became much easier nowadays than in the past.
Mm-hmm. And you know, so really you're only focusing on those 2 varieties. Tell us a little bit about your strategy. Why when so many other people are growing like Dolcetto, you tell us a little bit about why you changed from the Dolcetto, and you told me one time about the difficulties that Nebbiolo likes one type of environment and Dolcetto likes the other, and you had to choose.
Actually, Dolcetto is a very demanding variety, because Dolcetto, to make a good Dolcetto, you need to implant in the same exposure where you implant a Nebbiolo. Very low yields. You have to reduce the yields a lot, and then in the autumn sometimes we have a difference in always we have difference in temperature between night and day. When it happens that it's too cool during the night, the Dolcetto stop the ripeness and the berries fall down from the stem. So it's very delicate variety. In the cellar, if you don't rack at the right time, it's very delicate. It takes this reductive nose, and so it's a wine which is very needs a lot of attention. But unfortunately, it doesn't pay back, because Dolcetto doesn't have a market for a costly wine, because at his target he has a lot of other wine from around the world that are more demanded. So this is why we finally, actually my father always wanted to make a Dolcetto, because Dolcetto has always been our everyday wine, fresh, fruity, to drink young. In Langa, Dolcetto was the one that 8 o'clock in the morning, after 3 hours of work in the vineyards, with a sandwich with salame, you have a glass of Dolcetto. But yes, after many years that we respected the ideas of my father to keep making, he decided that it was time to remove it. So the production was very small. We used to make only 4,000 bottles, but he decided, okay, it's time to remove Dolcetto and implant a Nebbiolo. So we were happy.
And is your father a little bit more at peace with you all making a library now? Because you know, I remember
yes.
he said
The problem
no, everything.
Yeah, the problem is that my father in the past didn't have the philosophy to keep wine. So we have just one bottle from the 64, one from the 67. And sometimes somebody bring back, I just received the last month the one bottle of 78, which I didn't have in my cellar. And the 78 was the first vintage in which my father wrote Seraboella on the label. So our Barbaresco has always been Seraboella because we only had the vineyards on the Seraboella. But he finally decided in 78 to write Vigneti Seraboella on the label. So also for this kind of things, he has been one of the first they started to write the name of the cruise on the label, because generally in the past they used to blend different cruise to have more balanced Barolo. Generally was talking about Barolo because there is a little bit more history, and my father wanted to say the quality of this wine, the characteristic of this wine come from Seraboella. So this is why he wanted to write a Seraboella on the label. And actually, my father has been the first using Seraboella and the only one until 2001. So for a long time, he has been the only one producing Seraboella on the label.
It's such a beautiful wine, and made even more so by the stories of its rich and somewhat tragic history. I know that John Rittmaster's out there. I've seen him on the list. John, our Piemonte pioneer out there, would you like to join in?
Ciao.
Ciao. Ciao.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, this is my wine sorcerer. This is John.
Ciao Daniela.
Ciao, John.
Ciao, John. Ciao.
John is in Walnut Creek. For those of you that weren't with us last weekend, John's in Walnut Creek, California. And he's been going to Piemonte for many, many years. And I give him great amount of credit for making the market for Piemonte on the West Coast. And he knows both of these ladies quite well. And I thought we'd get some of his comments about the region and about these two wineries.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I won't bogart a lot of your time, but I've been lucky enough to be going to this region for now 25 years. And I have a couple of memories of visiting each of your respective cantina. Like Claudia, you remember the last time I visited your cantina, it was in one of the worst rainstorms I could ever remember. And we were parked outside, my wife and I, and you came out with a pink plastic umbrella to help us out of the car and bring us into the cantina. But it was such a wild, God, I love, I think that Cigliuti makes wonderful, wonderful Barbarescos, but I also have a personal, their Barbera d'Alba is a real personal favorite of mine as well. And my enduring memory of visiting Albino Rocca was about, I don't know, 16 or 17 years ago. And the night before, I was with a group of customers. We had quite a bit of grappa, I think, and the evening got quite late. And we wound up at the cantina at 9 o'clock in the morning, and Angelo immediately took us downstairs and said, you know, the best thing to do is to start by tasting the barrels. So everybody with hangovers and really feeling quite terrible was drinking Barbaresco barrel samples at 9:15 in the morning. So many people like to say that, you know, Barbaresco is a more feminine, kind of a lighter wine than Barolo. But I believe, and my belief began on that day, that young Barbaresco is a lot harder to drink when it's young. It's a lot more obviously acidic, right? And less gras, you know, less fat in the middle than Barolo does. So anyway, with a hangover, I don't recommend Barbaresco in the morning, but the Barbera was wonderful. So yeah, no, two wonderful, wonderful cantinas, and we've been lucky enough to be associated with them for 25 years. And I remember the Barolo Boys connection and the Mark de Grazia connection. And Mark was a guy, half American, half Italian, really, who got the idea to create a stable of young, progressive wineries who are interested in actually getting passports and traveling to the United States to promote their wines. And both Cigliuti and Albino Rocca were pioneers in that regard. And we've been buying their wines ever since. So terrific lineup.
Good choice. Good choice. And well, thank you, John, for those thoughts. And I'm going to call on Cheryl Shelby is out there and from Salt Lake City. She's the owner and wine educator at the Wasatch Academy of Wine. Cheryl, you've been to Piemonte quite a bit. Do you have any questions for the ladies?
I'm kind of interested in the reason that they would call dolcetto the little sweet one if it causes so many problems.
Who would you like to answer that one?
Claudia.
Yes, dolcetto, dolce means sweet, so the people believe, and actually the grape are very sweet. And we eat the grape like a table grape as well, because they are very sweet. And so the people probably thinking dolcetto is something sweet, but the wine is not sweet, and only the grapes.
Yeah, and it is difficult. There's a lot of controversy these days about, pulling out the vineyards and replacing them with, many people are replacing with hazelnuts, even in areas where they can't really put in Nebbiolo, because it's kind of a grow it and leave it and harvest it crop. So Romina, do we have any other questions out there?
Yes, there is a question for Daniela. So how is for you and your sisters to pick up your family business, for 3 women like that, to pick up your family business?
How is to manage, you mean? Because I didn't hear very well.
Okay. I can repeat, posso ripetere. How was challenging for you and your
was challenging.
Yes, to pick up your family business?
But it wasn't really challenging. I mean, putting together really all the ideas and all our energy. At the beginning, we thought it could be very challenging and very hard to cover as we were young. But we had immediately good results, and really people and customers really did support us. So I think also it was it's great that all the 3 sisters, we come from different experience in our life. As I was working in banking for many years, and Monica was a lawyer, and Paula is the enologist. So we kind of put together all our different experiences, and I think it became kind of natural, really, to continue. As of course, we feel the responsibility of taking over from a family that really was in the region for such a long time, but at some point it became really natural. So at the end, after now those years, we think really we did a great job, but also we did receive a good support from everyone. So
I think one thing I want to throw in too to inform everybody, neither you nor Claudia went straight into the business. You were both in other areas. So why don't we flip to Claudia first and then come back to you as to what drove you to come back to the business?
Sorry, I missed the part.
Claudia, you didn't start like your sister did. in the business? You had other
So,
career intentions.
Me and my sister, when we were younger, we didn't have a good relationship because we have 6 years of difference. And so when you are very young, it's a big difference. And so we didn't have a good relationship. And I'm the oldest. So I studied tourism because I had other dreams when I was younger. But I actually started to work with my father almost immediately because I helped in the summertime in the vineyards, because summertime we have long holidays and very busy in the vineyards. So we were asked, the both of us, to help in the vineyards with the hazelnuts. So it was not actually my dream when I was a teenager to continue this business. But when I turned I graduated, so I was around 20 years old. I decided to continue with this business. And I was my sister attended the enological school, so she was driven a little bit in the choice when I decided to take over. And I was thinking, when she was finishing the school, I was thinking how it will be that we have so bad relationship. And and finally, when she started to work with us, I don't know what happened, but we can't stay 1 hour without messaging or calling if we are in a different house, or stay together, talk. So we have a fantastic relationship nowadays, and we are very we work all day together, and I generally let her take the decision where she's better than me, and she does the same with me. So it's a perfect combination nowadays, and hopefully it will be like that in the future.
And you all live in the same compound in the same area, so it's not like you can get far away.
Very close by in this yard with my parents, my sister family, and me and my family. So we are very close by, and this also help.
Well, Daniela, you had a different start than where you are right now. Tell us a little bit about your background before you joined the family in the business.
Yeah, well, it's similar also to the Claudia story. When I graduate, I really, I'm also the oldest, so I didn't really have maybe immediately the idea to start to work at the winery, but also my grandpa at the time, Albino, pushed me to find a job, because he thought that working in a vineyard was a very tough and hard job and hard work. So he didn't want for me to do this job because it was too hard for him, for a woman. So he was the one that really pushed me to do an interview, and there was a local bank that was hiring people, and I took the job. And so, and I worked for 19 years, but at some point really I feel that I wanted to join the family. This was a kind of dream at some point. And I remember that now it's 10 years. It's 10 years now, this year. I asked my dad, what do you think? Would you like me to join the family and help you in the business? And my dad, told me, it's up to you, it's your decision, but just be sure about this decision, because I'm not able to pay you like, you did a career in the bank, and I'm not pay you, I can pay you, I cannot give you the same salary. And I told my dad, it doesn't matter, really. It doesn't matter. And I immediately started to be more focused on the commercial side. I started to travel at the beginning with him, and then by myself, and then step by step I also learned to do something else at the winery. But yeah
You've been spending time in the vineyards too lately.
Yeah, now yes. Also sometimes. Yeah.
Well, Also, so Romina, what do we have out there?
Yeah, we have questions, you know. We have a question from Sunny Brown. If you want to unmute him, you know, and kind of say the question, would be great.
Sunny, you out there?
Yep, I'm here.
Hi, Sandy.
Hey, hi everyone.
Wait, time out. Sunny, we have to have a disclaimer now. Give your relationship to Daniela.
Yeah, I am cheating a little bit. I work for Marta Grazia Selections. So I work for the importer that has been lucky enough to represent Daniela's wines for quite some time. I'm newer to the company, but the history of both the relationship across Italy, but also specifically in Piemonte and Barbaresco and Barolo is very long, and it's very important to us. And but for me, the easy part of all of this is just working with great families and representing great wines. So that's the fun part. But the quick question that I had was, there's a lot of conversation, and there has been for quite some time, about the dramatic changes in terms of the level of quality in both Barbaresco and Barolo. And over the years, there has always been people who have wanted to say it's because of this or it's because of that, and there's lots of different reasons. But I think for both of our friends here, both for Claudia and Daniela, what do you think is the most important factor in why the wines now are dramatically better than what they were maybe 20 or 30 years ago?
Great question. Who wants to answer?
Yeah. But well, I would like to relate also from what Claudia says before about the fact that during the 70s and also the 80s, it was also difficult to have very good vintages. And in the last 30 years, also we have been more lucky. So it's a mix of different elements, of course, but some belongs to the weather, because we have had probably also better weather conditions. And Nebbiolo, I think, is a great variety that has benefited from this a little bit climate changing in the way that we are picking earlier the grapes, and we so in the, you know, in the old time they were picking in November when it was almost the time it was raining, so it was very difficult to pick good and healthy grapes. Of course, growers like my dad and Claudia's dad started to improve the quality during the 80s and 90s, starting to reduce the yields per vine, and this was also another important element that took to a better quality. And I think also there is a change of generation today that is really looking to, you know, to do their best to make the best quality they can. There is also, I mean, we have been lucky to have more possibility to, you know, make investments in the cellar. So also, and we have a lot more experience in making wine. So it's a mix of many different elements. There is also a fact that for me, I think is also important, is that we are also paying more attention to the environment. We are so almost now all the growers are not using herbicide. I think also this is something that also is extremely important today.
I think also what was related to me when I was researching for the book is the question, that similar question to Sunny's question came up, and that was that in days past, up until about the early 70s, it was about survival. It was about survival. And, you know, the idea that you could, you know, cut bunches off and improve the remaining grapes, the quality, or that you can focus on low yields and really focus on quality as opposed to quantity. that's not here right now, fortunately. And so that's also had what many think is a big impact. But I think anything you want to add to that, Claudia?
Yes, in fact, the people from my generation had quite a hard time with the parents, because the parents were used to make a lot of quantity, and my generation already wanted in the 90s, 90s, reduce the yields to get a better quality. And I have been lucky because my father, although he's quite old, he already had this philosophy of low production in the vineyards. So we have been lucky because we didn't have to fight between us and our father. Of course, the climate really changed a lot. In fact, we have much drier autumn and sunnier autumn, longer, we can, not summer, but of course sometimes October and September is very sunny and dry, so we have much less rains in September, October comparing to the past. And this help because the last part of the ripeness is so important to have dry and not rains. So this is what make the difference a lot as well. So.
Well, you certainly have a lot of challenges. You've had years with hail, and needless to say, this year started with tariffs. We had COVID, we still have COVID, and we still have tariffs to face again in August. So it's not an easy life, and we have a great deal of appreciation for what you do and respect for the perseverance through the years. I can't thank you both enough for joining us your evening, our midday. And John Rittmaster, he has typed in there his email address. If you would like to obtain these wines, John does a great job of sourcing wines, and he can ship to Minnesota. Hopefully we'll be seeing those wines on shelves. One thing that people don't understand is with 50 states and 50 different sets of rules and distributors and importers and all that, sometimes not all the wines are found in every state. So John has been helping a great deal to help my clients and help many of the wineries' clients to obtain the wines when they can't in their own stores. I can't thank you both enough. And I wish you all the very best through this growing season. I know it's going to be very tough. But you know, our prayers go with you, and we look forward to drinking much more of your wine for many more years to come. And thank your families.
Thanks.
There's one more question. There's one more question. I want to
okay. Great.
Tell that she wrote in Italian. You know, she has to unmute herself and ask this question in Italian for Claudia.
In italiano? Ok, provo.
In italiano, brava.
Claudia, che fa con le sue moltissime nocciole?
Should I answer in Italian or in English?
Well, tell us the question in English first so everybody can follow along.
What on earth do you do with all those hazelnuts?
Yes, good question. So in the past, we used to send all of them to our Danish importer.
Oh.
Because his brother has a chocolate factory, small chocolate factory. So he used to make chocolate with our hazelnuts. And then they sold the company. And so now we sell to a negociant who deliver to the different small chocolate. So not Ferrero. So Ferrero is a big industry, is the Nutella industry. Of course, the production in Piemonte is enough for 3 months of Ferrero demand. So it's not enough, of course. So most of the hazelnuts come from Turkey. But the local small patisserie and the small chocolate artisan in Torino, there are a lot, they use our local hazelnuts, because our hazelnuts in Piemonte seems to be one of the best variety. So. Yeah,
the Tonda Chile. I have to say that buying nuts from the families directly, both the Rocca family and the Cigliuti family. Those hazelnuts you have to definitely try. Daniela's brother-in-law, Carlo, who you saw earlier, was very involved in the winery, also started his own hazelnut production. So I highly recommend that when you're there, go to the source. There's some great nuts and hazelnuts in town from the stores and in the markets, but go to the wineries and buy from them. They're very fresh, and you'll enjoy them. So,
Yes.
Romina, I throw it back to you. Thank you for your question, Janet. That was a good question. Romina? Have we lost Romina? Hello. Where's Romina? I've lost my host. Okay, Romina, unmute.
Yes, I'm here. I'm calling Giovanna Messina to ask a question. She has a question.
Okay, great.
Unmute herself.
Yeah, my question is, what is the difference, or should I say it in Italian?
Tutte e due, tutte e due.
Tutti e due. The difference between Barbaresco and Barbera. Allora, la differenza tra Barbaresco e Barbera, per favore.
Chi? Daniela?
Yeah, so Barbaresco is the name of the appellation that includes the 4 villages we were talking before, but Barbaresco is a wine made by Nebbiolo grapes, 100%. This is by law. And Barbera is another grape variety. So Barbera is made by Barbera grape, again, 100%. And in the region, you can find both Barbera Dusty and Barbera d'Alba, depending where the Barbera is growing, if it's in the Alba or the Langhe region or in the Monferrato area. So we are talking about really 2 different grape varieties. Both are very important in the region.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of I'm glad you asked that question, because a lot of people think that Barbaresco or Barolo are grapes, but they are single variety grapes, wines. Thank you. Romina, I'll throw it back to you.
Yes, for sure. I think we covered all the questions for today. So for sure, I want to thank you so much, Suzanne. I want to thank you, Daniela. I want to thank Claudia. I want to thank John and all the participants that came today to meet this family and listen to their stories. And also remember that every Sunday for the month of June, from 12:30 to 1:30, you're going to meet other families that are producing the Barbaresco and the Barolo wine.
And we have Arnese, and we have the Roero and the Monferrato areas too. Don't forget.
Yes. So all of this area are going to be covered in this meeting on Sunday at 12:30.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're asking who's next. Okay. The next family is going to be the Caldebaio and Del Tetto, and it's going to be next June 14, Sunday at the same time, 12:30 until 1:30 Central Time, and it's going to be evening in Italy. So I want to thank you again, everyone, and have a nice rest of the weekend, and grazie mille a tutte le famiglie e a tutti gli spettatori. Grazie.
Grazie a voi.
Ciao. Grazie mille.
Ciao.
Grazie. Ciao, ciao. Buonanotte. Ciao, ciao Claudia. Ciao Daniela. Grazie.
Buona settimana.
Ciao a tutti. Grazie. Ciao, ciao.